of things. Before we connected, I pulled you some oracle cards. We're not going to go over them in the session, but I will send you their pictures and their guidebook descriptions because that'll be a deeper level of messaging. And then I asked each one of your chakras what kind of crystals would help with their healing and growth. And I built you a crystal grid. So I'll send you pictures of that as well. And then I will get the replay to you today or tomorrow whenever it gets done processing. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So for the notes for your session, I saw that we want to work through any blockages that we might have. Is there
Yes.
anything specifically that you want to look at or talk about, or is it let's see what comes up?
Well, whatever's important that comes up is good.
Okay.
But I noticed that I've been having difficulty with employment recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been dating, like seeing people a little bit, but I haven't really been. Yes, I don't really feel like I connected with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's a blockage in terms of who I'm attracting, or and then when I apply for work and I'm qualified for the position, I feel like I'm overlooked, or I don't know. I'm not sure what it is.
Yes. Okay. It's so funny you say that because we're going to talk about one of your spiritual gifts at the end here. And your higher self used this very specific example of helping somebody get into a career.
Okay.
And so that's probably a self-reflection
Yeah.
for you as well. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting that she was having me transcribe it like that, but now it makes sense. Okay. Well, let's talk about what came up because that it does have to do with your career or dating or just bringing friends and soul tribe members just in general. So people and career. Okay. So when I went into your energy fields, I saw a porcupine. And porcupines are representative of either having good boundaries or keeping people at bay.
Mm-hmm.
And your porcupine was representative of keeping people at bay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is because they have soft underbellies that they are trying to protect. And I asked your higher self what it was that you're trying to protect. And she said, our sensitivity has been taken advantage of in life. Does that sound representative? Okay. Just so you know, this is a safe space to cry. If you need to get tissues, that's okay too. Okay. It's okay. Okay. What comes up when I hear that? I know it's a lot.
I didn't think I would start
Get some
crying.
tissues. It's okay. Get some tissues. Get whatever you need. It's okay.
I think I'm just like a sensitive person.
Mhm.
And I think like a lot of people have, they could tell like for the most part, I think most people are good,
Mhm.
and I think people take advantage of that. And yeah, I've had a lot of things happen to me that weren't pleasant.
I think you have a very pure, intentional soul. And some people like to think that we are naive or we are not mature because we think the best of everybody, because
Mm.
we want the best for everybody. And that's the reality that we want to be living in. And oftentimes we will bypass the red flags that other people have because of things that we have been through in childhood or teenage years. And so, even though consciously we know that certain things and certain people are not good for us necessarily, we still have that behavioral pattern where we draw them in or we're drawn to them because that's what's comfortable, that's what's known. And then we end up getting more evidence of how people hurt us. And then we kind of have this general viewpoint over everyone. I know that consciously, you know, people are good, okay, for the most part. With you being a very hypersensitive person, which same, we often can see people's higher selves and their inner children within them. And we say, I can see underneath all of the PTSD and trauma that you have. And I know that you're a inherently good person. And the reason that you have these behavioral traits that are non-preferable, like manipulating, gaslighting, narcissism, all those things, we know why they have those.
Mhm.
The issue with being hypersensitive sometimes is just because we can see their higher self and their inner children within doesn't mean that that adult is going to meet us on this plane. And then we end up getting treated in certain types of ways because of those kind of rose colored glasses that we often have with people. What
I
comes up when I say that?
um I'm guilty of rose-colored glasses.
I'm not guilty. It's just that it's not even, it's not, and that's the thing too. We need to make sure with our inner children and our teens, sometimes we're holding so much guilt and saying, like, oh, I attracted all this. That's not your fault.
Mm.
It has to do with how you were raised and the lenses that you were programmed with. It's just how everything transpired, but it's not your fault. It's not something you need to be guilty over. It's, hey, we're working on releasing those behavioral patterns, but they're not our fault that they're there in the first place. Because
Mm.
for the majority of life, you probably didn't even know or aware of that.
Yeah, well, when I was really naive for a long period of time. Sometimes I think I still am, but I feel like recently I'm a little bit more guarded, I suppose, with
Mm-hmm.
people. And that's why, like, when I'm seeing people, I kind of see something I don't like faster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that's it. But it's kind of disappointing because I don't know what I'm doing to attract um, people that are not good for me. Whether it's a friendship or romantic relationship or something like that. I'm not sure what I'm putting out there that's attracting um, people that are not healthy for me.
Yes. Okay. So I see this with empaths and light workers and hypersensitive persons where if you have been hurt when you were younger, inner child, teenage years, consciously you want to attract people who are high vibe, high frequency, and who are a energetic match for the reality that you want to be in. Okay. However, oftentimes the opposite is the case where you will attract people who are not good for you because it is a way to self-sabotage and push people away. It said, I am going to attract these people who I ultimately will find something wrong with or who are going to hurt me so that I can push them away before they are able to hurt me. It's a
Mm.
defense mechanism.
Okay.
That has happened to me in my life. I was like, why can I not get out of this loop that I am in? So this is where we're going to have to do some perspective shifts with your inner children, which we're going to talk about a little bit here. Okay. So when I asked your energy body, what is it that she was wanting in life? She said, I want to find people who I can be open and free with. So what does that mean to you when you hear that?
Well, I feel like for me, that would be where I don't have to feel on guard and I don't
Mm-hmm.
like hyper reserved, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where I can just kind of feel relaxed and not like I'm on defense all the time. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just kind of more relaxed and not worried about how they perceive me.
Absolutely. So one of the reasons that we end up attracting people who we need to be guarded with is because we're assuming that we have to do that, but that's grounded in reality because we have had to do that in the past.
Hmm.
So it's a loop that we get caught in. It's like, I'm going to go on these dates or I'm going to go out with these new friends, but I'm going to kind of have this wall up. And so that way they don't get too close to me, or I can prejudge and figure out if they're going to be in energetic alignment with me. So before you even go on the date and before you even go to make these new friends, that's the energy that you are emitting of I need to be guarded at all times. So you're pulling in people who you need to be guarded around.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's the vibration that we're pushing out is I am only a vibrational match for those who I need to be guarded. Again, just a safety trauma response.
Mm.
So this is a matter of self-concept and getting yourself on a timeline where you don't need to do that. So we're going to talk about that some more.
Okay.
So your energy body said that she wants to be around people who tear down walls and barriers that are separating people. And I said, what does that mean? And she said, constructed fear paradigms. I said, okay. So the world and the way that we grow up, we are very much programmed or traumatized, or we live in these capitalistic societies that create so much fear surrounding everybody, right? And then that's how we end up on these negative timelines in the first place. So, what she was saying is, I want to help people break free of that and be able to go
Can you
ahead.
even see me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you see me though?
Oh, I can see you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is it because I have my eyes closed?
I feel like half my face is cut
Oh, no, I can see your whole square.
off.
That's odd where you can't see that. Now I can see all of you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but thank you for checking in. It might help if you turn your camera off and you can turn it right back on. That might fix the issue if you're not able to see yourself. It'll
I
work.
think it's just my device that I'm using.
Oh, okay. Okay. If that gives you any more issues, let me know and I'll see if I can fix it on my end. So let me get back to it. Okay. So your energy body, wants to be around people who have these similar core missions of helping people break out of those fear paradigms. So let's say your soul tribe members, like people who are very much invested in the collective consciousness and helping everybody raise their vibrations and frequencies. So how does that sound when I say that?
Um, yeah, I feel like, bringing the good out in people would be a good thing, but I'm not really sure, I guess exactly what you mean by breaking down the fear.
These false illusions that have been created because of capitalism or religious programming, societal programming, cultural programming, all of these things that make people feel less than. That's not necessarily their fault. It is just the reality that they have been prescribed to, is what your higher self is saying. So a
Yeah.
lot of people are having difficulties with self-love and their confidence and believing in their dreams and feeling like it is a reality to make those possible. And your energy body was like, I want to help them see that they can. And I also want to be around other people who are helping with those things too. So it sounds like we want people who have these very deep, deep, deep capacities of love and radiate that out. And when you were saying, I feel like I have been naive in my life, your higher self wants you to switch that perspective, because it's not that you're naive, it's that you know that there's a reality possible where everybody is participating in unity consciousness, and all these false illusions and all of these things do not have to be in their reality. And so when you are interacting with people, you are always thinking of the best of them. It's not that you're naive, it's you are a being of love and light.
Mm.
And yes, people do take advantage of that. If we let them take advantage, that's where we have to make sure we're holding good boundaries and not carrying the rose-colored glasses, and understanding that not everybody is going to make that choice of higher consciousness in their life. And it's not our responsibility to shift them there. That has to be their own choice. So do you ever feel like that it's your responsibility to shift people there that are not wanting to make that decision themselves, that we know that they're just stuck in their own paradigms?
Um, I feel like in some situations where I've clearly seen something that's not the way it actually is, and I pointed it out to other people,
Mhm.
and they're just like, "No, you're wrong," and and then I'm just like, "What? Why can't you see this?" Like, and then I'm
Yes.
like, "Okay, well, I can't help them. Like, they're too far gone.
Mhm.
There's nothing I can do." So I have like this sense of like, well, I can't really, people are going to come on their own terms
Mhm.
around when they're ready, regardless of what I say or what I point out to them. And so,
Does it make you start second guessing yourself sometimes?
um, not that I second guess myself, it's just that I
Mhm.
feel kind of isolated because I feel like why isn't there people around me that under like understand, I guess, or that why can't they see uh, things? Uh, why can't they see that something's false? Or the people that I find can are like people that I know like online, like
Yes.
not in my not like around me. And then the people that are around me that seem like they might be a little more aware, there's always like something that's wrong. Um, it's like they have the right idea, but they're going about it a way that's not, in my opinion, ethical or, in my opinion, healthy long term. Does
Okay.
that make
It does. Can you give me an example of that, of how somebody's a little bit more aware, but they're headed kind of
feel like my
down a timeline that's not exactly going to get them there?
So an example would be like these people that do Reiki, right? They'll do
Mhm.
Reiki and they're like, oh, like, and then they tell me things like they seem really in tune, like, but then they'll say things like, oh, you have to absorb some of that negative energy. And I'm like, why? Why would you
Mhm.
absorb? That seems unsafe to me.
Mhm.
Um, Even if I didn't know how to do it, like that doesn't sound right. So there's just things like that where they have a little bit more awareness, or then, um, but it's like they're not quite there. And I don't want to sound like I know everything because I don't know everything.
No, I know what you mean. We need
But
some people who are our peers.
yeah,
Yes. That are on the same frequency as you and are resonating on the same esoteric knowledge level.
hmm,
It
yeah,
sounds like it sounds like you don't have a lot of people in your life that are resonating with you on that space.
no, I don't feel
Got it. Okay.
no. And there's always something wrong with me too, like according to
Oh,
them.
what do you
You
okay.
know, and it's always
Okay.
like, oh, it's not like this, it's like that. And I'm like, is it? Because in my experience, it's like this. And then they have an excuse of why that is.
Yeah. Okay. So there was this time in my life where I really wanted to help people, but at the same time, I didn't like people.
Yeah.
And I was not having good interactions with people. And I was like, how the heck am I going to get from here to over here if I don't want to be around people, can't stand being around people? They make me upset or they hurt me. But I want to become this coach and this energy healer over here. Okay. So I had to really work on changing the way that I view people, which is difficult in the beginning because you've had so much evidence in your life about all of these things. Okay, this has been your truth for a very long time. So when I was going out into public, one, I had to work on, which we're going to talk about with you, regulating central nervous system and feeling safe in our body because your higher self say you are activated with your central nervous system.
Hmm.
A lot of anxiety in there. Okay. We're on high alerts a lot. So I had to change the way that I was seeing my reality and stating over myself what I wanted to experience instead, and giving these olive branches out to people, not saying not to hold good boundaries. We need to do that, because that has probably been one of the things that you have been continuously working on is, hey, I need to learn how to put these in place so I'm not taking advantage of. But then sometimes those boundaries are too strong and we're not allowing anybody to get close enough to us to show us, like, hey, they are a good person, or hey, this is a person that is in resonance with us that would be good for us in our life. So I really had to start saying, you know what? Everybody who is in my energy field and who I come in contact with is a beautiful human being who is self-aware and who is on their ascension journey, and they are so full of love and light and compassion. And when I interact with people, they smile at me and they give me compliments, and I'm always aligned with the right persons, and I'm meeting my soul tribe members, and when I'm out in public, I feel safe and secure. And if there's anything that is not in resonance with my soul, it will not enter my field, and have to like continuously speaking life force energy into the type of relationships that I want to have in life. Because your inner children are saying scary, 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 danger, danger, danger with people.
Mm.
You have to come in as the higher self in the multidimensional form and rewrite the reality paradigm that you have found yourself in. What comes up when I say that?
That sounds like a really, really good advice.
Okay. And it sounds in the beginning like it would be difficult,
Mm.
but if you do that for 30 days, you're going to start having completely different experiences in life. I had so much social anxiety and was on high alert, and my central nervous, like, who is going to hurt me either physically or emotionally, especially around like men or really large crowds of persons. But
Mhm.
that's because that happened to me when I was younger multiple times growing up. And so
Mm.
my body, my central nervous system was holding those cellular memories. And so when I would feel these fear frequencies, I start constricting and looking for all of the people around me who are angry or who are upset or drama filled or have chaotic fields, because then at least I know where they're at and I know how to navigate that, because that's comfortable to me. What's not comfortable is just having loving relationships where I am in alignment with people and we get each other and I'm able to be free and open with them. Even though we want that, if you've never had it, that's scary, because it's like, how do I navigate that? How do I have a completely open heart space? How do I assume the best of people while still holding good boundaries? Okay. And let me see what your higher self is saying here. Okay, so when I say those things about the differing relationships of having like free, open, laughter, joy, peace, them being really interested in what you're having to say, and it being a co-collaborative experience, and y'all doing things intentionally to help the world, what is the feeling that comes up in your body when I say those things?
I feel like relaxed.
Okay. Excited and relaxed. Okay.
That would be.
So, yes, these are the conversations that we need to be having with our inner children and our teens, the ones that had those experiences in the past of, if we continue to run that programming, that's the reality that we're going to have out in front of us. We're going to continue to draw in those people.
Mm.
We have to change out the filter lenses, the perception lenses, and write our order into the universe of, this is what I want to experience today around people. Okay. What happens when you go out in public around a lot of people?
Uh,
Okay.
so for me, I don't let people see how I feel.
Mhm.
So when I'm in large crowds, although I feel a little bit overwhelmed, I still act like it's not bothering me. So
Yes.
I'm usually quite straight-faced, just kind of like trying to not pay attention to
Mhm.
else. Yeah,
Yes. We're
that's
very
what
guarded.
try to
And
tune out. But
okay.
I'm still like, I guess, on guard, like if anything were to come towards me. But
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So let's think about the soul tribe members who you want to bring in or a partner.
Hmm.
Okay. They're chill, they're super relaxed, they're very high vibe, they're very consciously aware, they're at peace, there's vibing in life. Okay. Do you think that they are guarded like you are currently? Do you think that they're
Probably,
carrying that same energetic field? Okay.
probably,
So we
yeah.
cannot pull in a person that is chill and relaxed and vibing if we are tense and guarded and anxious over here. What
Mm.
will we pull in?
Yeah, we'll pull in some conflict for
We
sure.
will pull in people who are stressed and anxious and guarded.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to give you an exercise to try with your inner children for the next 30 days.
Hmm.
This fundamentally changed my social anxiety and the way I interact with people. And it's very easy. Do you drive?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So we do not want to do this exercise somewhere where it's super crowded. This is for like the grocery store or going to like a pharmacy, like a CVS or a Walgreens, somewhere that's just a little bit more chill. Okay. So when you are in your car, before you go to this place, if you're by yourself, I want you to sit in the car and take some deep breaths in and ask your inner children and your teenagers to come forward. You can just simply say, hey, inner children and teens, I'm about to talk to you. Okay. And we're going to say, hey, I want you to realize I am the higher self. I'm the guardian. I am the protector. I am going to ensure that we have a fantastic time in the store. I do not need you to protect us. I don't need you to frequency read everybody in the store. I don't need you to be on guard. What we're going to do before we go in here is we're going to play a game.
Mm.
When we go in the store, I want you to find something that makes you happy. I want you to find something that makes you smile, that is fun and colorful and magical and whimsical. I want to see how quickly one of you can find something like that. When you go in the store, because what you have been doing is frequency reading everybody in the store, okay, and the store as a whole, or wherever you're at, and saying, where's all the danger? Where's the chaos? Where are the scary people with their frequencies?
Yeah.
And when you give your subconscious and your inner children a task that is fun and it's like a treasure hunt, now we're looking for good vibrations. We're looking for good frequencies. And once you start that momentum going, they're going to look for more. So it's going to be your job as the higher self to turn your peepers on, okay, when you go in the store and say, can I go to the toy section? Can I go to the flower section? Can I go to the fruit section where there's all these colorful things? Who in here can I see that is smiling and has a radiating auric field, like a really high energy? Maybe they're wearing colorful things, they have colorful hair. Once you start that ball rolling, okay, and they're a little bit more excited, when you get back in the car, we're going to do a debrief with them. That's just as important. And we're going to say, hey, how fun was that where we're looking for the magical things? Did you feel safer? I love you. Notice how I do not need you to protect us. This can be an enjoyable experience being out around other people. It doesn't have to be something scary.
Mm.
Okay. If we continue to do that, it is releasing that trauma and PTSD out of your cellular memories because now we're rewiring things. We're saying, when I go out in public and I'm around people, I have a good time. I feel fun. I feel magical. I feel safe. That's where we need to get to in order to attract different people in your life. Because right now, the kids are just saying people are scary. Okay. And they are going to hurt us either physically, emotionally, mentally, in some type of capacity, either now or in the future.
Mm.
So we need to shift the frequencies that they are looking for. Okay. What comes up when I say that?
That sounds important, and it sounds like it will. I feel like over time it'll become a habit,
Mhm.
sort of like natural, so that I would just automatically notice people that are, you know, more aligned with me, I guess.
Yes, I will say that it took a lot of conscious effort on my part to do that. I had to sit there intentionally and do it, okay? But after about 30 days, I didn't have to do it consciously anymore.
Mhm.
My inner children were like, "Let's go on a treasure hunt." Not just with fun magical things, but who are the people who are around me that have really high vibe, high frequency auric fields. It's like a moth going to the light, right? And my perceptual awareness started to tune out everybody who was not in a vibrational alignment with me. And I stopped having negative experiences with people because I'm not looking for it anymore. I'm not guarded. I'm like, when I go out, I just have a good time. And I'm only attracted to people who are also a good time.
Okay.
Okay. I know it sounds very like theoretical, but when you have a tangible thing like that with your inner children and exercise to do and making it like a game treasure hunt, it makes it a
Yeah.
lot more fun goal for them. I'm going to fix my camera here really quick. Okay. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. But we need to be assuming the best possible outcomes because the same thing your higher self is saying is with your career. And even though that doesn't seem like it's correlated with one another, if you are wanting to get into a new job, there is the propensity that you are going to be around coworkers or bosses that are going to treat you in the same way that they have in the past. And so
Mm.
that self-sabotaging behavior of I'm going to emit this frequency where I need to be super guarded and on edge in worst case scenario, that's what's going out into the quantum fields and creating a barrier between you and those jobs.
Mm.
It's the same principle that is applying in reference over here. Inner kids are saying there's a million things that could go wrong and bad if we get into this new opportunity. Even though you, as the adult, are like, hey, we need a job, we need a career, okay, to pay the
Yeah.
bills, okay. But underlying underneath that is this guardedness wound, okay. So that's where we need to be speaking over them and saying, okay, inner kids and teens, what do we want in a new career? What are the best case scenarios? What kind of relationships do we want to have with our coworkers? What kind of relationship do we want to have with our boss? What do we want our office or whatever the job is that you're looking for? What do we want it to look like? What kind of environment do we want to have? How do we want to feel while we're at this position? We want to have coworkers and a boss who are so very communicative and they're team players and they lift us up and they give us gold stickers for how awesome of a job that we're doing. We get paid super well and we're able to utilize those funds to have even more fun in our life. That's the type of energy that we need to be pushing into that timeline in order to bring it to us. You're a very powerful manifester because of how hypersensitive you are. The issue with that is when we are spiraling and catastrophizing in negative thought patterns, we pull those timelines into us very quickly
Mm.
because in order to manifest, you need emotions and you need your imagination. And if we are in these lower frequencies, and we are powerful manifestors because we have such intense emotions, your higher self is saying if we can pivot and start getting really hyped and excited about the relationships that we're going to have coworkers and a boss and all of the beautiful wonderful things that this job is going to bring to us, she's saying you could have a new career very quickly, but we've got to pivot. We have to be writing or speaking or feeling or thinking in a positive direction to bring that into us. Because it sounds like what has been happening is we're running thought patterns of, oh my gosh, why is this not working out? I'm always overlooked. I never have the right opportunities. Inner children and inner teens, and they're like, well, all these new people, these new relationships, they could potentially hurt us. What if I'm not good at this job? All of these things are pushing the careers away
Mm.
or the positions. Okay, what comes up when I say that?
Well, it makes sense. It actually makes sense that they relate to one another because at the end of the day, um, it's another relationship. Even though it's a
Mm-hmm.
relationship or relationships, you'd have business relationships with people. So
Yeah.
you would, um, it, it's just another different type of interaction with a person, essentially. Uh,
Yes.
it's professional, of course, but
Right.
it does make sense that they kind of correlate. If that's the word.
And I love that correlate. And your inner children were just saying, I could hear them, and they said, well, some of those co-workers could end up being our friends,
Yeah.
which that's true.
Yes.
And
When
we
you see
love,
more than,
go ahead.
you see your coworkers more than anybody else, they're there
Yes.
10 to 12 hours a day, which is a long time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
What I hear them saying is, well, what if they become our friends and then they hurt us like other people have in the past?
Hmm.
That is representative of taking things over here in these past paradigms that you have been in and holding on to that baggage as a safety trauma response, where we need to come in and say, we can be in a new reality and be a new person in any moment. What we are going to assume is that our coworkers are going to be freaking amazing. We are going to find people who are super consciously aware and who are great cheerleaders and who love our thoughts and our opinions, and they value us and they love our personality, and we can feel open and free with them. And if we do end up becoming friends outside of work, what a beautiful blessing that will be. I have been wanting people who I can add into my uh friend family. That's what your higher self said. Your friend family, and that are going to support me and help guide me and help mentor me. And they're going to not only help me at work, but outside of work. Those are the things that we need to be speaking to the inner children and getting them super excited about this.
Okay.
And one of the ways that you can do that is that exercise that I've told you to do with your inner children when you go out around people, because they need proof of that. Because over here we have this career, which is a big what if, and we don't know when that's going to happen. If you can go ahead and start doing this at places out in public, and they start seeing those very immediate shifts of people treating you differently because you are looking for a different type of interaction, they're going to say, oh, wait a minute, this might be real. I might be able to rewrite any reality for myself so that when that job does come into my paradigm, I'm excited about it. But you need to go ahead and get the ball rolling with that with some immediate results.
Okay.
Okay. What questions do you have about that exercise in particular with your inner children? Is there anything there that you have questions?
Well, it's the concept is different for me, I suppose,
Okay.
to have multiple inner children. Like I understand
Mhm.
the concept of an inner child,
Yes.
but inner children would imply that there are many. And I'm like, oh, how many? Um, do you use that as just like a representation of uh, the past, or
Yes, I can explain that concept. Okay, so for this context with you in this exercise, we're not going to worry about all the different inner children. Okay, you can say inner children or teens, you can just say one inner child. We don't have to be working on that. I don't know what your higher self is saying. We do not have to be working in those different timelines right now, but I will explain it. But she's saying, don't even worry about that. Okay, for that exercise. But for this context over here, when I am working with people's inner children, you have been through a lot of different perspectives and experiences throughout life. And at each of these different ages, they have had different experiences. They're at different consciousness levels. So, for example, let's say that you dealt with people pleasing. There might have been an event that has happened when you were 4, when you were 8, when you were 12, when you were 15, where you took these big trauma wounds
Okay.
that perpetuated that people pleasing. It's a lot easier to heal if you go in and you speak to a certain inner child on their consciousness level to help them release that trauma, because a 4-year-old is going to interpret things differently than a 12 or 15-year-old, and they're going to need different tools and resources. Just like you wouldn't speak to a 4-year-old or a 15-year-old in the same manner if they were children outside of you. Now, do we need to go in and heal every single child with those wounds? No, because if you help one of them, it helps all of them. But if you are trying to tackle people pleasing as a whole trauma wound, it takes a really long time to do that because there's so many layers of where that's happened in your life, especially if it's very strong for you as an adult. But if you take one singular memory that you can remember with people pleasing, let's say it's you at 12, and you go in and you work on it with that 12-year-old specifically and say, how can I help you? How can I help you rewrite this narrative? Or can I hold space for you? What emotions do you need to release? Did you not feel seen, heard, and validated? How can I help you specifically with that memory? When they release that, it releases so much more of that trauma wound as a whole, because the other inner children are seeing and hearing what you're doing with that one very specific memory, and then they start to apply those tools and resources to the other fragments within self.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense the way that I explained it?
Yeah. That makes
Okay.
sense.
Your higher self was saying, for the context of that exercise before you go into the stores, we don't necessarily need to go in that deep with everybody. It's more so just, hey, y'all as a group, how can we have more fun interactions when we're in public?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to show you this example that your higher self gave in regards to your spiritual gifts. Because you help, are you giving sessions to people? You said you read tarot, right?
I do tarot. Yeah, I liked using tarot the most. I mean, I have
That's
others,
great.
but I feel more comfortable with tarot.
Yeah. Are you giving sessions to people?
Well, like I'll film it while I'm doing it and then I'll send it off.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Um,
Absolutely love that. Okay. So your higher self, when I went into your energy field, she was showing me where you were taking your fingers and you were looking at somebody who was kind of in the darkness, and the darkness is representative of a certain paradigm that they are in, of self-limiting beliefs, trauma, PTSD. It's the filter lenses in which they're looking through their reality or looking through back at themselves. Does that make sense?
okay.
The perspectives. That's the paradigm. And that's how they interact with people, their job, their finances, their partnerships. Like your paradigm that you're living in right now is people are scary because I've been hurt in the past. Okay. So she was showing me with your fingers where you were creating this window in their shadow paradigm and opening it up so that they can see outside of it into a higher frequency, onto a higher timeline. And she told me to go get my tarot deck, and she showed me the Hermit card. I don't know if you can see this, but it's leading people out of the shadows. And it was funny because this almost kind of looks like a window as well. And the example that she wanted to give with timelines here. So let's say that we have somebody who's looking for a new career, like yourself. Okay, that's the example she gave. So they could have 3 different thoughts in regards to this career. I am not confident. I am working on my confidence. I am confident. So those are the 3 different thoughts that are going to lead them to 3 different timelines and 3 different results. Okay. So if somebody says, I am not confident, and that's the self concept that they're running, they're probably not going to get the job because that's the vibration that they are emitting out into the ethers, into the quantum field. If they say, I am working on my confidence, which is a higher level timeline above, they might get the job accepted for it, but they're just going to accept it for what it is. If they say, I am confident, and they believe in themselves and what they have to offer, they're going to go in there knowing I'm going to get this job and ask for $5,000 more than they're offering because they know their worth and they're going to get that accepted. So those are 3 different realities that that person can be in depending on where their thoughts are and what vibration and frequency they're emitting. The way that they shift those patterns and those thoughts is releasing this trauma and PTSD from the past and all of these false illusions and holding on to all of that baggage and letting those inner children and those teens tell them, I'm not confident. That's where you have to come in as a higher self, the multidimensional form, and say, we're a new person right now. We have to have new thought patterns and beliefs in order to have a new future, right? So we have to be speaking positivity into ourselves, into those timelines that we want to be experiencing. So your higher self said that you are incredibly clairaudient.
Clairaudient, so I can hear things?
Yes. Okay. But clairaudience comes through in different capacities. Some
Okay.
people hear spirit guides, some people hear their higher self, some people hear inner children. Some people can hear into different frequencies and dimensions. Your specific gift, which is just one of them, okay, because you can learn how to do a lot of stuff with your clairaudient abilities. Your ability is you are able to listen to the words that someone is speaking and tell what timeline direction that they are headed down. And then you are able to speak to them and lift their vibration and frequency to a higher plane of existence, opening up that window of possibility. And so that they head and pivot in a different direction. So you are a type of timeline reader. You are a timeline pivoter.
Okay.
That's okay. So the reason that you have had a lot of negative experiences with people is because you are a timeline reader. It's because you can see things that they can't. You can see why everything is correlated and connected in their life, why they're stuck, what they need to do to move forward. The issue with that is if they're not able to perceive those things themselves, they think that you are judging them.
Mhm.
Okay. Or you are triggering them because they're saying, well, how do you know? How do you know what's best for me? Because their consciousness is not at the same place where you're talking to their higher self. You're like, hey, I can help them get here. Maybe they're not choosing to do that. They don't want to do that. They're not ready for that. This is why I ended up becoming an energy healer and a coach, because I wanted to be around people who wanted that information.
Mm.
Because I'm very good at it, and so are you. So we need to start utilizing our gifts and abilities and talents on people who want that from us. You may have been feeling a little not fulfilled in that area because of the way that you are. Let's talk about your sessions really quick that you're doing with people, and then I can talk about that further. So people are asking you for a tarot reading, and then are you emailing or videoing it back?
Usually video, so I'll film it on YouTube and do
Okay.
it unedited, so only they can see it.
Like
And
a private link.
yeah, and then a lot of my free work, I would do recordings.
Mhm.
So I'm speaking and they can hear me shuffling, and I send those off. And it's always the same thing that they want to know. Like I feel like everyone asks about their career, which is fair,
Yeah.
and their love life, which is also
Mhm.
fair. But then, I want them to ask me more interesting things because I feel like I learn too. Like,
Sure.
people something interesting, you're like, oh, look, you can, you can do this, or, you know, there's some interest, like, if they ask, well, what's a message from my guides or something, and they always have really good advice.
Mhm.
So it's always nice when I find those more interesting.
Well, you might also be so in the earlier stages of my journey, when I was, excuse me, when I was creating a little bit more stability in my 3D reality, I was coming across people who were dealing with the same things that I was, so I could have a mirror back effect. And so
Mm,
that's probably what's happening right now. Let me find all these people who are working on their career so that I can reprogram myself.
I
And so
see.
that's why you're drawing them in, right? So, do you want to be helping people with soul mission or spiritual gifts or multidimensional connection? What is it that's more fun and expansive for you?
I feel like healing is a big thing for me.
Okay.
So, obviously, we're always healing, but, healing trauma, I suppose, would be the biggest.
Would that be fun for you? Would that bring you joy?
Yeah, like I feel like it, because I'm not sure if it would be, super fun, but it would be, I would feel really good about it because
Hmm.
one let go of something that isn't serving them, and so that they can move on with their life and they can, feel better, I guess. Um,
Yes. Okay. So one of the reasons that you might feel a little bit unfulfilled in not that you don't feel fulfilled in your sessions right now, but one of the reasons that we're not feeling in as much fulfillment as we could is because when we are having real time conversations with somebody opposed to sending them videos, we're able to more actively use those clairaudient abilities in our ways to get them on a higher timeline, a higher frequency, because we're teaching them in real time how to shift their languaging and how to project more positive energy into their timeline because we're hearing the words that they're saying to us and we're helping them make adjustments and helping them transmute and alchemize.
mm,
So if you are not having a conversation with somebody, it's a little bit more difficult to utilize those really prevalent gifts that you have. And so your higher self is saying, at some point we may have to make a pivot where we're actually meeting with people like in one-on-one sessions where we're having conversations in real time, or you can intentionally connect with their energy field that is of the present day and have those conversations with their energy field, kind of like I did before I got on here and I connected with your energy body of saying, hey, what's going on, where are we at? And then I had a whole conversation with her before I even connected with you because I'm helping her in real time get to that higher timeline, that higher frequency through the words that she was speaking to me and saying, okay, this is where these things are grounded in these lower frequencies. This is where we need to get to in order to get to the timeline that you want to be in.
mhm.
And same thing that I'm doing with you right now of saying, hey, this is where we need to pivot. But if we are having sessions with people where they're saying, hey, I want you to help me with my career, what do you have for me? You're not being able to utilize that gift in the best capacity that you can. So
Okay.
your higher self is saying, why do we have trepidations about doing that?
Well, I know why.
Okay.
In my personal experience, and again, this could be because I've attracted that, where I've had live uh, messaging
Hmm.
while I'm doing it, and they're messaging me back and forth, and they're always really anxious. Like they're always like, "Well, what about this and what about that?" And then you're like, "Oh, like I don't know." You know, they're anxious.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, hold on, this, and I feel like it distracts me because then I feel anxious, and I'm like, well, now I feel pressure. Now I can't really, just
You can't
if I
dive in as deep as you want to.
yes, and I feel like I
Yes.
can dive in deeper when I'm like, okay, I'm not distracted by anything. I can
Okay.
good.
do you think that that is an assumption paradigm that you have been living in and you have been attracting those people because that's what you're looking for, kind of like what we talked about with your relationships?
It's very well,
Okay.
it's highly likely.
Okay.
That's what's going on.
Yes, that's what I would assume too, is we're looking for nervous Nellies and then we get nervous Nellies. And
Yeah.
the only way that you are going to work through that and stay more grounded in self, because I totally get that. When I first started giving sessions, they were nervous, I was nervous. I'm
Mhm.
very flighty. Okay. But the only way you work through that is to give more sessions and learn how to have a good homeostasis within self and stay grounded no matter if somebody else is getting nervous and anxious, and teaching yourself how to ground them through the words that you're speaking and the energy that you are projecting, and learning to be a leader in that session and to hold those pillars of safety and security with them. The only way that you can do that is to continuously go into that. I will say that exercise. Are you okay on time, by the way?
Yeah, I'm fine, yeah.
Okay, if we go over like 15 minutes. Okay. So that exercise that I told you, if we don't feel safe around people in general, we're not going to feel safe around clients.
Mhm.
We're looking for worst case scenarios.
Mm.
And we're being guarded with our clients, and we're scared, and we're like, oh, what if this happens and that happens and all these things, just like with regular schmegular people. Okay. So that's why your higher self is saying, hey, let's do these tangible exercises where we're going out in public and changing our perspectives of our interactions with people, because that will help you with your clients as well.
Okay.
You need to get to a point where it's, I feel safe no matter where I go. I have a good time no matter what happens, even if my client's nervous. Like, it's going to be fine. Okay. I know how to guide and direct them. So your higher self is saying, to circumvent this, one, we need to drop the paradigm perspective of that the only people that come to us are for a career. Obviously, that is true because that's the evidence that we have got, but we need to be speaking more positive manifestations into that timeline of it. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I started getting clients that were asking me more about spiritual gifts and about multidimensionality and their soul mission and healing their trauma, figuring out what exactly kind of trauma you want to be helping people with, because there's a billion different things.
Mhm.
So getting specific on that. And we need to be having thought patterns throughout the day of, I'm so excited to be attracting clients who want me to support them with this. I am very confident that I can support them with this. When you go to give your sessions, your higher self is saying it would be beneficial for us to drop within ourselves, ask to speak to that person's energy body, do a frequency check-in, a languaging check-in, and ask their energy body, what are you thinking about this career or this trauma or your finances or the relationships? I need you to tell me where you're at in your baseline right now. Because when you speak back to that person through the video, that's how you're going to open up that window to that paradigm and help them get to that higher frequency. But you got to know where they're at to begin with.
Okay.
Because I think the way that you have been, okay, let me see how your higher self is showing me here. The way that you have been perceiving people's energy fields and the things that they have going on have not been a full representation of where their beliefs are in the first place. What comes up when I say that?
Um, I'm not, I'm good. Well, maybe I'm only getting like a tiny view. Sorry, my
Yes.
stomach's.
She's saying,
Uh,
hey, she's saying, hey, you could infinitely expand here. Not, and she's not saying you haven't been doing a great job and you've been
okay.
helping people, and that's fantastic. This is not saying you've been doing anything wrong or anything like that. You're just ready to go to the next level with people.
Mm.
And we need to more intentionally speak to their energy body and say, I need to know where your beliefs are at. I want you to tell me very specifically what is challenging you, what is blocking you, what you think about this X, what you think about this trauma, your finances, your relationship, your career. We need to have a little bit more of a deeper reach within somebody's field so that when you do create that video, it's giving them a higher timeline to reach up to because you already have a very good understanding of where they're at in the first place. You're going to be choosing different words to say to them. So what does your process look right now before you do sessions?
Well, generally they ask me a question. If it's something that I can record it, and at a later time, they'll ask me a question, and then I'll go, okay, and I'll kind of wait till I'm ready to do it, and then I'll do it, and then film it while it's happening, so everything's live,
Mm-hmm.
and then I send it off to them.
Okay.
Or they'll ask me a question, and if a lot of my free work, I do recordings rather than videos.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll record it, but they can hear me shuffling in the background, and then I'll send it off. It's very rare that I do try to channel sometimes, but I don't do it as often, and I feel like I channel during my readings by default.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, but sometimes I'll channel ahead of time. But I don't usually, so it's interesting that you're saying to connect with them, because one of the things I usually avoid is connecting with anything that's not, to my perspective, not from the light.
Mm-hmm.
Safety, again, for
Okay.
safety.
Yeah.
So if I connect with them, like I don't know if I'm connecting with them or something around them. Or,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. I
I'm
do know what
kind
you're
of like, well, I don't want to deal with that when I can just go right up to the top, or the light or whatever,
Sure.
and
Sure, sure,
and
sure.
communicate with them and receive their messages, and then get advice on the part. So then I know I don't have to worry where I'm getting my information.
Okay. Okay. So so we have some fears there.
Yeah.
Uh that's probably why your higher self is bringing this up.
Yeah.
No, because if you want to be helping people with in the future, it doesn't have to be in the future, it can be right now, but in the future, if you want to be helping people with more multidimensional facets of themselves, let's say different incarnations, you want to help them figure out different planetary systems they've been to, you want to help them with these really expansive spiritual gifts, you're going to have to go deeper in the Akashic field.
Yeah, that's something I'd have to learn, I feel like, because that's something that I've never actually, I don't think I've done that. Or if I have, I don't think I've been aware of it.
Yes. Okay. You already have that template within you because you're a timeline reader. So
Okay.
you have that. It's the fear. It's the
Yes.
fear of what am I going to find when I'm in here? Okay. So you get to determine what type of reality experience that you have. And so if you sit down before to connect with people's energy bodies, you can simply set the parameters of I want to speak to this person's energy body and the consciousness level that they are at right now and figure out the challenges and the self-limiting beliefs and where they are at currently. And I want to be able to perceive their children and their inner teens because that's where the blockages are most usually coming from, are people's inner children and their teens. That's where the programming happened. Okay. And that's the only thing that I want to connect to, period. I do not want to connect to other incarnations. I do not want to connect to other beings. I do not want to connect to past loved ones. I don't want to connect to ancestors. Like, if that's not what you want to do, set the parameters and the intention beforehand, and those things cannot come through. If we are not setting parameters and it's like, oh my God, a million other things could happen. Right. And now we're on high alert and we're like doing the same thing that you do in public, but in somebody's energy fields.
Okay.
Okay. And then you're not able to perceive the information that you could because your central nervous system is activated with fear. So if we say beforehand, the only thing that I can see in this person's field is the things that have to do with them currently, with their inner children or with their teens, and how that relates to them creating forward movement. But I need to have a deeper understanding of where the beliefs are in the first place. I need to speak to their energy body. It doesn't have to be this big old long hour thing. It can be 10 minutes before your reading. If we're going and jumping right into the reading, okay, your higher self is saying, we have people's consciousness here, and then we have people's subconscious. The subconscious is what's running everything, right? If you are jumping straight into your sessions without speaking to their energy body first, we're talking to more of their conscious brain, and they're not going to have as much forward movement. We need to figure out what's going on in their subconscious first. So she's not saying that you necessarily need to have one-on-one sessions like you and I are doing, even though eventually you will be doing that. Okay, so that you can use your gift in its full totality. But this is a way to tiptoe and ease your way into it and create more safety within yourself and groundedness of, okay, I do see where I'm able to perceive a lot more with people this way. And you're building more tools and resources, and you are fine-tuning the way that you speak to people so that when you do get into one-on-one Zoom sessions like we're doing, or whatever that looks like for you in the future, you'll have already built up this confidence within yourself of, I can very clearly see what's going on in people's subconscious. I don't have those fears of, I don't know what's going to come up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle it. It's like, no, I can see very clear. So it's training yourself how to see in people's subconscious.
Okay, so like more of like a psychological, like therapist perspective.
Kind of, yes, because we're having to figure out, why are you experiencing these things right now? It's because there's stuff in their past that is keeping on projecting, and they're caught in these loops, in these reality loops, kind of like you have been caught in. Not anymore. We fixed it. We worked on it today, okay? But you were caught in this reality loop, right? Well, where is that coming from? Why is that happening? I have to figure out what your beliefs are and work my way down into your subconscious of what happened with your inner children and your teens that caused this in the first place. Now we can work our way back up and get to a higher frequency. So that's what your higher self is saying, is we got to go deeper. We got to figure out where this stuff is coming from. So that when you do create these videos, we're making a large movement with people, because you're actually speaking to their inner children and their teens instead. You're speaking to the root of the problem instead of the topical thing that is going on right now. So she's saying you are going to skyrocket the results that you can get for clients, and you're also going to start pulling in different clients. Because right now, you are pulling in more topical clients who are probably not doing the same amount of self-awareness work as you would want them to do, because you're connecting to them on a more conscious level. You want people who are already working on that subconscious level. They've already done a lot more trauma and PTSD work, but in order to draw those people in, you have to start doing that with self and start doing that with clients now to be a vibrational frequency match. These are people that already have a good understanding of the deeper roots of things that are going on in life. That it's not just their current reality that's vexing them. It's like, there's stuff under here that has caused this, and I'm ready to get to that. Those are people who are ready to step into their multidimensionality and start talking about their soul mission and their spiritual gifts and how they're going to help the collective and do that deeper type of trauma work that you're wanting to pull in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. What questions do you have about that?
I don't think I have any questions about that. I feel like I will rewatch this though, just to
Okay.
like write down some notes.
Yes. Okay. Your higher self is saying, hey, sometimes we're a bit of an overthinker.
We are.
Okay. And what she doesn't want you to do is take away from this that is going to be harder. than what you've been doing before is going to be easier.
All right.
Okay. If, excuse me, if we take 10 minutes before we get into a session and we light some incense or some Palo Santo or some sage or use Florida water, whatever helps you get into the flow zone, and you sit and you close your eyes and you say, hey, I would love to talk to Sarah's energy body or whomever you're speaking to. I want to talk to her energy body. I want to see the things I need to see, hear the things that I need to hear. I would love to talk to any inner children or teenagers that want to come up and let me know where her current beliefs are in regards to X, whatever she's coming to you in the first place with. And just sit with a piece of paper and a pen and see what comes through. And if her energy body talks back to you, you can talk to her. Like before you and I started connecting here on Zoom, I was talking to your energy body in a conversation.
Okay.
And then I was able to determine, oh, she has this, and this going on. So that way, when I come into the session with you, it's a lot easier because I already have a bunch of information. I'm not having to sit and draw that out from you. I already have a good narrative. And so I'm able to help you create so much more forward movement because I already have a deep understanding. Same thing with you. When you go to sit down and actually do the tarot and create the video, it's going to be so much more deeper because you're not going to feel so nervous and anxious about what am I going to channel? What am I going to say? What direction is this about to head in? Right? It's like, no, we already did this pre over here with the energy body. Now it can just all flow out. So higher self is saying, hey, this is actually going to make it a lot easier for you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And setting the parameters of what you want to experience in people's energy fields. That it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm scared what's going to come through. Okay. What was your biggest takeaway today?
Well, definitely reprogramming my inner children or inner child to notice different things, instead of tuning into one type of thing, like notice everything or notice something in particular.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm describing it right. Yeah, reprogramming for sure. It's a big one.
Great. Your higher self is saying what we need to do is in regards to your career is really sit down with ourselves and our inner children and our teens, even if you're not consciously connecting with them, even if you don't know all the ages, just asking them to come forward to the table to speak to you. Okay, say, hey, I want to talk to everybody. Hey, it's a collective. And saying, we're about to get super freaking hype about this job. We are going to speak all of these amazing things into our relationships with our career, with in regards to our coworkers and our boss and what we want our job to look like and how we want to feel there and what kind of environment it is and what kind of money we're going to be making and what kind of opportunities we're going to get out of that and the tools and the resources. And we need to be pumping positive energy in and saying, it doesn't matter who our coworkers end up becoming or our boss. I'm going to keep us safe. I am the higher self. I am the guardian. I'm the protector. We are not hinging our soul tribe members on our coworkers and our boss. Sometimes we just have jobs. We can find those persons outside of the career as well. But if they so happen to coincide with one another, great. Right? But positive, 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 positive all day long. Those thoughts that you're thinking, the negative ones, are pulling that negative timeline into yourself. So we need to, when those things are coming up, ask the inner kids or the teens or yourself, oh, what's a more fun thought? What's a happier thought? What's a safer thought? What's a more exciting thought? And keep pivoting all day long. And you're going to draw a career in that is a frequency match for those positive thoughts, because that's what we want. We don't want a career that is in resonance with those thoughts that you have been having.
I see, yeah.
That's not going to be fun for anybody.
No.
Right? So we need to be thinking the thoughts that are in resonance with a super amazing job.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to send you your oracle cards and your crystal grid, and then I'll get the replay to you as well. And then higher self said, remember this imagery here, because this is you helping people open up that window. But she said, you got to open up your own window first.
I did have, sorry, I don't know if we have time, but I
You're
did
fine.
have other questions.
Okay.
One of them is, what advice does my higher self have about my ex? And the other one is, I've done a lot of past life regression therapy on myself, and I've had a lot of lives where I was isolated or orphaned or whatever, having to do things on my own, and kind of like I am now, like I'm the only one taking care of myself, and
Mhm.
it's just like back then. And I'm wondering if I have any connections to other planets or dimensions that might have some information for me, um, or if it's just the reason why I am the way I am is because of my other past incarnations on Earth, and that I actually have a strong connection to Earth. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
So, what kind of information are you trying to retrieve in regards to these different incarnations?
Um, well, I guess,
If these
well, I
play,
don't think,
if these play a factor of isolation in regards to how you have been experiencing this one here.
yeah, I don't really like being isolated. I don't really like feeling alone. But I noticed a lot of the ones that came up, I was pretty much on my own or having to do things myself and, or, have a lot of responsibility and no one look after me. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
I do. So, do you know how we talked about with your inner children, your teens, of if we are looking at the past over here
Mhm.
and we're pulling from our past experiences to predict our future, then we have a lot of evidence to make that future a reality. Okay, so the same thing goes in regards here. Yes, we've had a lot of timelines of isolation. Does that matter for our future?
Okay.
Oh, your higher self's asking you a question. Does that matter for our future?
No.
It can if we say, hey, obviously I'm experiencing this right now because of that, which is true,
Mhm.
whether it's in this incarnation or different incarnations, because those are real experiences. But the other option is to look at where we're at in time and space right now and say, I don't adhere to that anymore. It doesn't matter if I had timelines of isolation. I am choosing to step outside of that fear paradigm right now. And I'm going to choose a future path where I'm surrounded by so many loving, amazing, joyous people. So it's up to you whether you want that to apply to your incarnation in this one as well.
Mm.
If it's, I've had 67 incarnations, I'm not saying that's how many it's been for the example. If I've had 67 incarnations where I have been alone by myself in the woods in a shack, okay, and I've isolated myself, or people have hurt me, okay, how does that relate to you right now and the future you want to head into? If we pay energy and intention into those, then we'll just get more of that. Or you could say, you know what? I'm going to take these collective experiences that I've had throughout time and space and all these incarnations and say, I don't want to do that anymore.
Mhm.
I am going to be the person out of all of the 67 timelines that is going to heal my soul on a karmic level where I no longer choose isolation. I am going to heal the things that I need to heal in order to change my perceptual lenses so that I start attracting people who are in deeper resonance with me and who love and support me and who validate me and love my opinions and love my perspectives. And we all have very similar soul missions. And we are helping lift up the world. And I am working in my spiritual business full time, if that's what you want to do eventually, right?
Mm.
And I am going to be in a completely different reality experience than those other timelines. Just because that has happened doesn't mean that it has to have a chokehold on you. those are probably karmic rollover lessons that you've been dealing with for a very long time, but that doesn't mean that you cannot break them today. But if you're
Okay.
paying energy and intent, okay, higher self is saying, okay, why have you been looking for all of these timelines of isolation? Why have you not been looking for timelines that are in resonance with you having these beautiful family members and these friends and these tribes around you? Have you been finding these timelines to validate why are you in isolation in this one?
Yeah, it was to figure out why I'm going through what I'm going through, and then I would
Mhm.
see once.
Yes. However, if we are looking for timelines of isolation, obviously those timelines do not have the tools and resources because they were in isolation. They are not the teachers and mentors and guides for you. Who would be the teachers and mentors and guides for you?
Well, ones where I'm, more living a more fulfilling, joyful life, I would say. Yeah.
This is where we need to. Okay, let me hold on. Your higher self's having me redirect here. Okay. If somebody is dealing with people pleasing and then they go to get advice from a friend who is also dealing with people pleasing, are they going to be able to help each other in their greatest capacities?
I would say no.
Probably a little bit, right? Because they can like co-collaborate and like try and work things out. Would it be more beneficial for both of them to go speak to a friend who has healed people pleasing?
Exactly.
Higher
Yeah.
self is saying, we need to go find us some timelines with the parameter intentions of I want to connect with a version of myself that has beautiful, loving relationships and had a big community and a big tribe and felt safe and secure and was able to express her spiritual gifts and not be in fear. And so incredibly powerful and wise and knowledgeable and feels like she has the best harmonious relationships. Those are the timelines that I need to perceive. I do not need to receive the timelines that are of isolation because in order to heal those timelines, which it sounds like you want to do too, like there's a piece of you that's like, hey, these timelines of isolation, we all need to heal
Mm.
in order to move forward as a soul. That means that if you want to be the person that helps them heal, you need to pick up the tools and resources in this incarnation to become the teacher and the mentor and the guide to them. You can become that person. You can become an expert at harmonious relationships and do soul fragment healing, where those timelines that you have found, you can go in and help them heal in their timelines.
Mm.
I know that sounds like a lot, and we don't know how to do that yet, but you will be able to do that eventually because you are a timeline reader, you're a timeline healer. But all of these different timelines congregating together on self isolation, we're not learning anything from them. Maybe we're learning why they ended up there in the first place, but we're not learning tools and resources.
Mm.
Okay, what comes up when I say that?
And that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yes, okay. This is kind of representative of your gift in the first place of if people are sitting in these lower frequencies, we need to either use neuro linguistic programming or we need to help them self navigate themselves to a higher timeline. The same thing goes in regards to you as well of it's not serving me to look at all of these isolation timelines. Like, what would be a higher frequency for me right now? That would be I need to go speak to a timeline that has the tools and resources.
Mm.
Your higher self also wanted me to tell you before I forget in order to fine tune your abilities is to research neuro linguistic programming. Do you know what that is?
feel like I've heard of it. I don't think I know a lot about it or read up on it really.
It is, oh, you know what? I'm going to send you this. I'm going to send you this thing. Okay. All of our words carry a certain vibration and frequency and can shift us onto timelines depending on what it is that we are emitting. So neuro-linguistic programming is helping people choose higher frequency languaging, higher frequency words when they're speaking. I'm going to send you this free 30-day challenge. It's not mine. It's by a woman named Christy Whitman. And every day for 30 days, she sends you like a 2-minute video and she takes one word and shows you how that's a lower frequency. And then she gives you the new word to use in the new phrase. And that was a really good way for me to understand what neurolinguistic programming is. It like really helped not only my clients, but it helped me in my own life. She also said working on self-concept, chakras, learning about timelines, and the power of your imagination. Those are all going to help you as a timeline reader.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What questions do you have in regards to what you asked me about timelines now, your different incarnations?
I don't think there's anything I want to know now. I think, if anything, I'm going to want to get examples where I overcome those situations.
Yes. Oh, speaking to the timelines where they have harmonious relationships.
Yes.
That's really going to serve you. You don't, it doesn't have to be this big old thing either. You can, it can be on a level of past life regression or hypnosis, all those different things. Or you could simply sit in meditation or when you're in a flow state, when you're feeling very at peace and safe and secure, and then just say, hey, are there any incarnations of mine that have really harmonious relationships that could give me some new insights and downloads and some guidance? And just let it naturally come through as well. It doesn't have to be this big ta-da. It can be, and that's really beneficial to do that because then we're talking directly, but just putting out the feelers of if anybody has guidance for me that wants to come through, I would absolutely love that. It's setting those intentions and shifting our perspective of I need to speak to somebody that has tools and resources, and then they'll come in.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Okay. In regards to your ex, that might have to be another whole session because that sounds like it's going to be something that is going to have to get deep into. What's going on with your ex?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to be done with him.
Okay, so we have some energetic cords that are running.
He keeps coming back and he's saying he misses me and such, but then it's all a big game, and
Yes.
he's manipulating me. He's manipulating me, and I know consciously he's manipulating me, but then he puts on. He's so good at acting, like, and then you believe him for a second, and then you're like, wait, no, he's not a bad guy, you know.
Something that your higher self said to me, because I know you had mentioned the X in the notes before.
Yeah.
Manipulation, when that is all we have known, and narcissism and gaslighting is comfortable. That's safe. That's safe.
That's what he does.
Even though we know that that's not good for us, there's safety in manipulation and gaslighting and narcissism because we know how to navigate that. Sometimes when we are looking at relationships that offer us unconditional love, that hurts and it's scary because we don't know how to navigate that because we haven't had those relationships. So we're going to take the more negative ones because there's safety in that. So you, as the higher self in the multidimensional version, need to come in with any relationship that moving forward, whether it's friends or romantic partners. Is this person helping my inner children heal, or are they hurting them? And then you have to make a conscious decision that if they're hurting them, I will not allow that to happen to my inner children. Because I know that my inner children are the gateway to opening up to more freedom and liberation in my life. And so am I going to allow my inner children to be gaslit and manipulated? Because that's what's happening.
I see.
You are giving him a permission slip to do that to your inner children. So you have to come in and say, and I know that's rough hearing that. Okay. But it really is. They are the roots of why I have these behavioral patterns in the first place. And if I am allowing that behavior to continue, I am keeping them stuck in those old timelines and ultimately keeping myself stuck there. But I am allowing that to happen to them. So their natural inclination is going to say, he loves us. He is a good person, because we know that he is deep down under all the trauma and all that stuff. Okay, whatever made him that way. We know that he's a good person. We can fix him. We can change him. He's validating us. All of these things that come up. You have to come in and say, I will not allow this to happen to you. I know that you love him. I know that he makes us feel safe and secure, even though he does all this stuff to us. I know what the truth of the situation is, and I will not allow this to happen to you. You have to become the guardian to them and make those difficult decisions. Holding boundaries with self. And that's going to stir up a lot of stuff with them. That is going to make them mad at you. Okay. Because I've been through that before, where they're like, oh my God, like all of these like turbulations come up. And that's where you have to stand strong and say, I am the higher consciousness. I have different understandings than y'all do. I understand how this dynamic is actually going to play out and what kind of timeline that this is going to get us onto. And I'm going to say veto.
Right.
Vetoing this decision right now. And is that always easy? No. There's been lots of times where I've been in relationships like that and I've let things slide. Right. But then there's other times where I have to wake up one day and I have to say, I'm not going to allow this to happen to y'all anymore. Especially if you know that he's not going to change.
Right. Yeah.
If you know he's not going to change and he's just playing around and manipulating you and making you do, all this stuff, there has to come a point where you say, I am not the person that allows this anymore. And he either has to get it together or I'm not going to be involved. And then he has to make the choice. We're putting it on him over here. And he can either decide to get it together or not get it together. But you have to determine what your parameters are going to be, what your expectations are. If I get treated like this, you do not get to have access to me. That doesn't mean that you have to cut him out. That might get him together. He may be like, oh, I got to meet her expectations in order to be in her life, but then you also have to be okay with him not being there. Because that might happen too.
Yeah, I'm already at the point where I'm kind of like, I'm tired of it. So, I kind of feel like, the best thing is for him to be gone.
Yeah, and he might change. That's the thing too. This is not saying that we necessarily have to cut people out, but we have to change our boundaries and how strong we are at holding those, and then let them do what they're going to do. If you say, I am not going to let somebody gaslight or manipulate me, then you have to hold steady with that and then allow him to go do him or change or show you some other type of behavior, not with his words, with his actions. People can say stuff all day long that is not grounded in truth. Their actions are grounded in truth. So when he's doing these things, we have to say, is this helping my inner child heal or is this hurting them? And then make the choice. And like I said, maybe he changes. Maybe he's like, oh, she's being serious. But I will say it doesn't sound like that's the case when you're talking about it energetically.
No, I don't feel. I mean, I feel like, as bad as it sounds, he's going to do it to the next person and the next person and the next person.
That's not something.
He's doing it to people right now. I know he is, because like we're separated, right? And then I wouldn't talk to him, and then he'd message me. He actually showed up at my place out of the blue, like buzzing my apartment. Yeah, he's just not healthy for me.
That's a representation of you not feeling safe. For somebody just to show up at your door and then you go into a panic and your central nervous system like come online, that's not helping our inner children. We do not need to be around people who are just showing up randomly at our place. That's a good boundary to hold. If you want to be like, let's just say that we were entertaining him.
Mhm.
If you want to be in my life, that is not appropriate behavior and it will not happen again. See, that's a way to hold a boundary and still try and facilitate that relationship in your life. And if he gives you grief on that, of like, well, I'm just blah, 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 then we know that he's not on the emotional intelligence level that we need as a person in our life.
Mhm.
However, if he made a different choice and he said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, you're right, that was not appropriate, that is indicative of somebody who is willing to make change and who would be safer for our inner children. That doesn't sound like what would happen. It sounds like he would probably be like, oh my God, and all these different things, right? That's not a
Because
person
he thinks I'm the problem, you know,
right.
the Buddhist. And when I say that, I mean like he goes to temple, he's been to meditation retreats, but you know, he's it's weird. Like he sounds like a crazy person when you look at him from the other side because he preaches all this don't cause suffering to people, don't cause it, but he causes a lot of suffering. You know, and people don't.
Well, those are people who are not, those are people who are bypassing.
Yeah, um, yeah. A lot of people think he's a certain way, and then I'm like, I've seen the other side of him,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is quite scary.
Or two-faced. Just
Yeah,
because you're spiritual does not mean that you are on an enlightened path.
yeah.
It does not mean that he is looking at his trauma and PTSD and figuring out how to become a more self-aware person. There's also people who are in the spiritual realms who are using that as a facadal way to boost their own ego.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Mhm.
And we need to check in with ourselves and see if there is some type of energetic cord running of I can save him, or because he's a spiritual person, at least I have him in my life and he's kind of spiritual and I can kind of talk to him about these things. Like there's some deeper reasonings as to why you're still entertaining him in your life.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like he's someone that's a little, you know, I can have these conversations with, but he always has a different perspective. Like his perspective is that, oh, that's not, you know, this guy, that's just you talking to yourself. And like, I'm like, well, it's really good advice either way. And, you know, he's like, you're not supposed to get attached to those things. And I don't know. Sorry, I'm talking bad about him. But,
You're not. This is a free open space. It's okay. Like
you
it's
know,
not.
he also has, you know, he was a Christian for many, many years of his
Mhm.
life into Buddhism. To me, there's no difference between the two. He's the exact same.
Again, he is probably using that as a facadal egoic lens and maybe not. Maybe he's just not on the same self-awareness journey and path as you are, and then he'll get there one day. Like we're not necessarily judging him for where he's at, but he's not on the same frequency as you and not on the same path.
Mm.
And we need to check why we're entertaining him. Like again, if it's I can save him or at least it's somebody I can talk to. Sometimes you really have to hold a boundary with yourself and say, this ain't it. I expect more out of my relationships, and I have to cut out the persons who are a representative of taking what I can get because that is going to radiate out in multitudes of areas in your life. If you are looking at him because he's spiritual and entertaining him because of that, and you're taking what you can get type of relationship because that's all you've seen thus far, you're going to do that with your career and your finances and your friends and your family and everywhere else in life. Sometimes you have to hold that boundary and say, I am going to only allow things in my life that are representative of the reality that I want to be in. Is he representative of a reality that you want to be in, or the type of relationships?
No.
You got to shed it.
Mhm.
When you shed things like that, it opens up your vibration and your frequency so incredibly much. And now you are a vibrational frequency match for people who are more on your level. But if we're over here entertaining people like that, then you're telling the universe, this is what I'm a frequency match for. And not just here, everywhere in my life. Clients, finances, career, family, friends. So in order to open up space, you got to shut it. And a good way to do that is say, is this person helping my inner child, or are they hurting them? Because that's a good barometer, because it's easier to take care of others than ourselves sometimes. And so it's like, okay, if I have all these inner children that I got to keep watch over and protect and guide, it's a little bit easier to shed those things because I'm a guardian now. It's not just me, it's them. I have a whole little tribe I'm taking care of, and I need to make the most in alignment decisions for us as a family unit. And so sometimes that's the difficult decisions of, no, we cannot eat 27 candy bars.
Okay.
Or no, we cannot have this person who is gaslighting and manipulating us in our life. Sorry, but I'm making an executive decision here. And when we do that, it's going to open us up to a reality where people who are in resonance with us can come in, because he's taking up so much of your energy field right now. So much of your energy field, your mental space, triggering trauma from childhood, like you not feeling safe, your central nervous system activated probably every time you're thinking about him. Like, get that out. And that's either we have to give him an ultimatum or we have to cut it. And the ultimatum can really just be, I'm going to hold stronger boundaries. And then he has to make a choice. So one's got to happen. Either cut him out, or we got to get very, very strict and stern with our boundaries with him. And then see what happens. And be okay if he doesn't stick around. But then also giving him the option to change. He might surprise you. He might be like, oh, okay.
I would be surprised.
Doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So that's why your higher self wants to prepare you for the other options.
Yeah.
But I have come across people who have done that before, and that person has changed. It just depends on like how deep they are into their own stuff and how willing they are to release that, right? Okay. Okay. Let me see what your higher self is saying here. Okay, yes. Did that answer your questions about both of those?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to send you oracle cards, crystal grid, and then I'll send you a replay. And then if you need anything else in the future, let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Sage.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope you have a magical day. Okay.
You too.
Bye.